There was another video that I saw with a sister who was speaking about how a lot of, men in, these days that are asking and talking about the poly lifestyle, she's like, you're not ready for it. A lot of men are not ready for it. And she's talking about it from a spiritual development place and a sexual development place. So when she speak from that, and she, she's a Black woman, and I know she's particularly talking about in our community, she's saying that, you don't have enough penis for that, enough spiritual width for that, and all these things. And it's like, I wouldn't necessarily say that I agree with that, but what I will say is that there needs to be a proper education and infrastructure for you to go back and remember indigenous ways of living in order for you to do that. But if you're stuck on a train of thought of, okay, each man just get women and we all do our thing, that's not a community. You're not in community consciousness. Now, there is, a good movement of Black men who is becoming more into polyamorous and communal consciousness, which is great. But the point is that that's what's going to actually get us over the edge to actual community and nation building, because that's becoming sovereign. And this is the thing. It was a brother that commented on the same post with the sister making, these, statements and saying this from her perspective. And he's like, well, it's really about, three incomes coming together, multiple incomes coming together in X, Y, and Z. And her point, what she was bringing up was that men who do this successfully that she's seeing is that they make it optional for the women to work. They're relying on him for majority of the main source of income. And I agree with that. That's true. If you look at the motivation of polygamy, even on an African continent, it's an economic motivation, because you'll see that, if a man has resources, then he will be expected, to take on more than one woman to take care of in a community. Now, we're talking about in the African American community, we understand that this is spiritual. We have to move towards sovereignty. So a Black man could get very comfortable in a situation like that. Like if you have three incomes, you all are working, and that could be comfortable. It could subliminally put him in his ego, even if he doesn't even desire that. Because, you have to go through challenge and some struggle to spiritually evolve. Like I'm talking about internally and spiritually. So this is why we talk about the framework from functional polyamory, because it really just puts everyone's egos in check. How are we able to put everyone's egos in check? Well, the brotherhood, for instance, if you have a brother who's that possessive over his wives and he can close the door, the men can close the door at night and they're in their own intimate homes, he could be doing things in a whole different person than if there's other men around. This is the necessity of having a brotherhood, right? And so from this perspective, it's important, that everyone have to keep their egos in check. And that's why with the Maji community, we practice functional polyamory. I naturally went through the stages of husband sharing, polygyny, to functional polyamory, to community building, and then towards sovereignty. Those are the natural stages that I went through. Now, yes, you will have, women in the community who understand, like in our community, a Maji community, we have women who are just with their husband and they know that. They know their role. But that's the whole point. That doesn't mean that they don't have thoughts and souls, and that they could still see what some of the gaps are, even though they understand, like the sister in that example, that she's just with her husband. It doesn't mean that she can't understand that the men are having issues with a brotherhood because of this possessiveness, and she sees it in her own husband. Right. So this is so important. Like there was another example. There was a sister, that I connected with. She wanted to grow more spiritually, and her husband, she introduced to what we were doing. She wanted to do Tantra, and, looking at everything that we have going on, he was interested in poly because he was like, okay, I could see us having another woman, but he was like, I don't want to learn anything. I don't want to do anything else. And so she left him, and she felt like that ideology was teaching her that he really don't respect women, because she wants to spiritually grow and evolve. but he's only interested, like, obviously, if you're a man, I mean, yeah, she's talking about poly. So yeah, I could just have another woman, but I don't really care to learn new information or grow as a soul. So she got with a brother in our community who they could be Tantra partners, and he practices poly and non-possessiveness, right? So, she was an entrepreneur. She made really good money, and she was just ready for the next thing in life. I mean, she did have children, and she wanted to spiritually grow. So that's what I'm saying about this. Like, we have to understand and honor life paths. And with the Maji community, we really have a foundation of reciprocity. It's not about, sex, right? So when we talk about poly relationships, it's not from that place. However, people get stuck on that because it's just this Western ideology centering around relationships and this, exclusivity idea. But if we're talking about building real sustaining communities and towards sovereignties, we have to release control of possessiveness of our mate to go towards sharing and building up with people in our community. That's going to include both men and women, right? Communities represent both. So it's really about, us shifting this. And there was another sister who had been making posts talking about, in the Black community, she believed that we embrace more of individualism culture rather than community culture. And the reason why, and this is what I said there's undermining spiritual reasons. Just the same way for Black women who still struggle with selfishness and cannot share a Black man because they want to run off to the sunset with him by themselves, and they can't work in a community. Well, you could have a Black man who's operating the same way, the same type of egotistical thought process in polygyny. So that's what I'm saying. You would never get a community out of that. And that type of man wouldn't fit into a community. I've seen it. Like with this type of brother that I was talking about that just had issues, his main issues was feeling like he was coming second to my husband. But you can't like have egotistical thoughts towards that, meaning that you want to be able to pick me up or see me whenever you want or have desires or whatever you want to do. Or even if it's like a business meeting, like you can't do that in community. Like you can't operate like that. Like, especially like I'm a wife. Now, if you want to do that with women who are not wives and they're trying to learn knowledge of self, and yeah, that might be easier to do with a single woman, right? But if I'm a married woman, and I have my husband, and the whole point is that you have to build and contribute to what we have going on. It's not about what you personally want and your desires. And that was I was easily seeing that in that dynamic. And going back, talking to my husband and men in the community, they did not have good things to say about him. They said that they could see him in his ego. They said that his personality, he did not have good personality traits. So it's like, okay, this isn't even good for the brotherhood. Well, I don't care what level of skill sets you have or resources. That becomes a cancer to our community. So you have to go. And I'm just saying that, it's becoming alarming that, we have to get over this. As, another brother was saying how, the model that he thinks work is, having, the sisters get with a brother, but it's like you're still having a very limiting and scarcity thought process around family that you're not aware of. It's so subliminal because you want to have false beliefs that supports your ideologies around you not being able to share your wife. So it's sabotaging you from growing a real community and moving towards sovereignty. It's so subliminal. It's so spiritual. It's like when he said that, he was saying that he thinks it's more good women out there than good men. And I was like, well, my experience and a lot of brothers' experience that I consult would say different, right? Because feminism has done a number on our community too. I believe both sides have been polluted with egotistical colonial ways. On the men's side with patriarchy and misogyny, on the women's side with feminism and, just really sick ideologies around, that. So it's really about, finding men and women in your community who is serious about community. If you focus on that, then you could achieve a harmonious family structure that we're talking about. But if you're focused on just having just women and you want to keep that train of thought and none of the women can be with other men, you'll never get a community. And you have men who do that, but I've seen men just revert back to monogamy because you're not treating the women properly. If you have a thought process like that, like it was a man who was looking at my content who was a Hebrew Israelite, and he just kept watching my stuff, and he was, saying about his ideologies based on his holy text, his concept of women, like even if another man touched your wife, she is wicked and, now she's contaminated, and these are his thoughts. So I was like, well, you need to just, watch, content that follows your holy doctrine. This is not for people who practice any form of religion. And he even disclosed to me in a private DM that he has 2 women and he was miserable. He was saying that he think he's going to kick the other woman out because it's not working. He's not even realizing why he keeps getting in dynamics like this, because of how he view women based on that misogynistic way in his holy text teaches him how to view women. Even if a man touches one of your wives, now she's contaminated or whatever, and he's just miserable. He's miserable with 2 women. So, we all can choose our life path, and the woman is gone now, and now it's like, oh, and now you practice back monogamy. It's just like, your ego won. So the reality is I'm just getting to the place where it's about reciprocity and the Maji community standing on both, right? That in order for us to really achieve true community, we need brotherhood and sisterhood. And based on my experience, it does seem that has been the case. Like, we understand, we do the sisterhood trainings and we're able to work together collectively. And we could even come together and understand that our men is needing help with getting over possessiveness so that we can get to the next level with brotherhood. That's what I said. It's really just about, honoring life paths. And realizing that, you don't own your mate, even if you're practicing husband sharing with, 2 wives, you don't own them, you don't treating them like property, that's not going to get you a successful, polygamous, family structure. And then some men are just in straight denial about wife sharing. Like, I would have brothers explain to me dynamics that they had with women friends, and they would consider a friendship, but I'm like, well, she would be married, and this sound more like a concept of wife sharing. It doesn't have to involve sex. So that's the thing. It's again, brotherhood, right? It's about contributing and coming towards, building together collectively. So I wanted to share this video, my intimate thoughts about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Any insights that you take. Maybe there's some things that you disagree with or have added perspectives. But yeah, I think, this is a very important topic for us to have, because spiritual development and sexual development is necessary for practicing poly. So the whole reason that we're doing this is to spiritually evolve. All right. So make sure we have the poly workshop this upcoming Wednesday, January the 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to have a panel of sisters who practice the poly lifestyle, a community blueprint course, and a reflective community exercise that's really fun. And we will all walk away with actionable insights as to how to contribute to community and nation building. You can RSVP on my website, ashasekhmet.com/store. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all in the next video. If you are a brother who would like to have a spiritual consultation with me to see deeper about some of the things that I am talking about, you can schedule that one-on-one with me on my website. If you also want to look at generational wealth building tools to apply to your family, securing your family's financial future, setting your structure up based on this family structure that I'm talking about in the poly lifestyle, you can contact me as well for that, the wealth building consultation, and all of my one-on-ones you can book on my website. And then our courses on school, we have some really good courses that goes over a lot of different things that I talk about in my videos and help you really build that educational foundation to have a really harmonious, thriving poly family and then contributing into a community. So I definitely advise you to get on school, to join our community there. We are the Maji Community Mystery School. And you can look at the different memberships that we have that includes, many different offerings there to just help you along your journey. All right. Thank you so much. And let me know if you all have any questions.